My name is Kathy Sherman, and while at Seton Hall, I studied health and physical education, and I graduated in 1977. I chose to go to Seton Hall because it offered a program in nursing, a 4-year nursing program, which was what my major was when I first started. It wasn't until my sophomore year, after discovering that nursing just wasn't my thing, that I decided to change to physical education. But what attracted me to Seton Hall was when I went to visit, I really liked the campus. And it was far enough away from home, where I lived in South Jersey, yet close enough if I needed to get home. Originally, I lived in the Atlantic City, New Jersey area, and our guidance counselor at my high school, I went to Holy Spirit High School in Absecon, was a graduate of Seton Hall, and kind of pushed it with a lot of us, you know, why don't you go and take a look and see if you like it. I really didn't want to travel too far from home, but yet I wanted my independence to be away from, you know, mom and dad, and, you know, be able to be independent on my own. And that's why I chose to go there, because like I said before, it was just close enough, but yet far enough away. The layout, I think mostly, I'm sure it's changed now, but at the time that I went to school, there were 2 dormitories there. Bowling Hall, of course, is what you would see as soon as you pulled up on campus. And then the other residence hall was at the other end of campus. At the time, it was called Women's Residence, has 3 stories. And I liked the lot because you didn't have to walk too far to get to classes, and everything was pretty well laid out for, you know, for me to get back and forth to where I had to go. And living in South Jersey, where it's completely flat, you know, no hills or, you know, anything like that, I found that really to be attractive, just the beauty of the campus. I liked the chapel too. The chapel was just a really, really pretty place to be able to go, even when I went to school there, to just sit if you wanted a little time by yourself. I really liked the chapel area. Probably for me, the most influential person was a priest who has since passed away. His name was Father Ed Sullivan. He was chaplain for the baseball team, traveled with them. He was very influential, and as a matter of fact, my first year when I was toying with the idea of maybe dropping out and coming home because I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to change my major, he counseled me, and he was very influential for me in my 4 years at Seton Hall. And I would say the other person that was very influential, especially in my teaching career now, was Mary Ellen Farrell. I don't know whether she's still there or not, but she taught reading when I was a senior, but I had known her throughout my 3 years in the education program there. Yes. Unfortunately for me, I only played 1 year, because when I changed my major, I ended up having to catch up and get 4 years of education classes into 3 because I wanted to graduate on time. But we were walk-ons, the 10 to 12 of us. I believe that's how many of us there were originally that started. We were all walk-ons from all over New Jersey, and I believe other states too. I can't remember quite if all of my teammates were from New Jersey. It wasn't until my sophomore year, when I assisted the athletic trainer — I still traveled with the team, but I didn't play — that we had our first scholarship recipient. Her name was Pam Cerruti. And then after that, they had other scholarship recipients, and I believe now most of the girls that play are on scholarship, are on athletic scholarship. But we were all walk-ons, and I still keep in touch with some of my teammates today. One, Karen De Palma, she and I keep in touch all the time, and she went to the alumni game last year and sent me an alumni shirt because I wasn't able to make it. We were very, very close. In fact, that year, our men's team made it to the NIT for the first time in 45 years since Walter Dukes played. He was a very famous player for Seton Hall, and it was a very big deal. So we dribbled basketballs. We routed out back routes to the tunnel, and we dribbled basketballs from Seton Hall to, I think it was the Lincoln Tunnel, and then we got in a van about the size of what you guys pulled up in today. Got in the van, kept dribbling basketballs. They let us out. We dribbled to Madison Square Garden, where we stayed in the New York Rangers locker room. And then at halftime, we dribbled basketballs out on the court, and we were the first women to ever dribble basketball in Madison Square Garden, because then women's basketball was just an up-and-coming thing, not like today. So it was a great year. We were very close, very, very close-knit group. And Sue Dilley, who is Sue Reagan now, she was our head coach. I was on the yearbook staff. I was in a sorority. I was involved in any of the student government activities that took place. I also was a tour guide for the, what department was that? I took students around that were considering Seton Hall on Saturday mornings, and they asked me to take part in that. I did that for 3 years after my freshman year. It was kind of tough because I would wake people up to give tours of the dorm rooms and everything like that. But that was one of the things that I enjoyed doing, because I was so proud to be a student there. And I was also an RA in the dorm my senior year. So that was a lot of fun. I had freshmen that year. I enjoyed doing it. I think the hardest part was weekend duty, when you had to stay on campus for the weekend. And that's when all the action always took place. That's when you always got woken up in the middle of the night to have to go unlock somebody that was a little intoxicated back in their rooms. I think my biggest challenge was the last weekend duty that I had before I graduated. Several girls, and they were my friends, and Teak fraternity decided to roll some kegs over and have a big party, and people got really intoxicated and started squirting fire extinguishers in the hallways and things like that, and South Orange police got involved, and I made some enemies that day because I had to do my job. So that was tough. There I am in my bathrobe getting a fire extinguisher squirted at me, but it was all in the job. I had to do what was expected of me. So that was tough. That was probably the biggest challenge. And dealing with freshmen when they first came, you know, at the time the drinking age was 18, so they were able to drink, and you know, having them come in the middle of the night and getting sick and things like that, you know, and I had to deal with that. And I lived with 3 freshmen. I had a room to myself, but my suite mates were 3 freshman girls. So that was tough. Having freshmen sometimes was a challenge, especially if they got homesick or something like that too. Yes, we went into New York City quite often. Chinatown, Little Italy, places like that, because those places were open after places in South Orange closed. It was 2 o'clock, and a lot of times we would go over to eat. But besides, you know, the party aspect of it, being a Eucharistic minister, that whole group, we were very close. Sorority. Also, we had a very good intramural program, and we participated in that. Now, I don't know whether any of the alumni have told you about the bubble. Yeah.
I heard about it. I had no idea what it was.
The bubble was an athletic facility where it was climate controlled. You could go in there, you know, in the dead of winter when it was cold. It had a full running track, basketball courts. We played some volleyball in there and things like that. And it was great, especially when Walsh Gym was occupied during basketball season. Especially, you weren't able to get in there because the women's and the men's team were practicing. And then down below in Walsh Gym, there was a big dance room, and the swimming pool was below Walsh Gymnasium. I don't know what they've done with that since, because I know you have this huge, beautiful, athletic, you know, Olympic-sized pool now. That's awesome. But yeah, I spent a lot of time doing intramurals. And of course, my sorority was a service sorority, so that kept me very busy also, doing a lot of community service and things like that. And then of course, when I was a senior, when I had to student teach, I was out every day early. So during the week was, you know, I had to keep up with my studies and my RA duties and things like that. The advice that I would offer that I offered to my own son when he went off to the University of Florida, my oldest, be able to balance academics with your social activities. I did not do that my first year. I spread my wings too far, didn't go to classes, had a wonderful time, you know, playing basketball and things like that, but I wasn't able to balance those two, and I think that is the biggest issue with kids today. It's more socials up here and academics are there. So I think the best advice I could give to anybody, and I do it to my own students because I'm senior sponsor at my high school, I tell them, balance your social life with your academics because your academics is the main reason you're there. Everything else comes secondary. My time at Seton Hall was an awesome experience.